James is eating some shrimp and wontons and salmon. Pretty fancy meal.
Yeah.
And I'm having some miso soup.
Not so fancy.
He's having some beet juice, which
Yeah, well,
I don't know how much you want that. And I'm going to be talking about these books a little bit.
I almost brought a book out, but I figured you'd have a full roster of books to deal with. So.
Well, I don't really, but anyway. I don't know how much I'll
finished quite a few books in the last year or so since we
Oh, I know.
stopped reviewing. Well, we paused.
Yeah, we haven't been posting for a long
Yeah, exactly
time,
right.
is what you're meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I picked out some pandemic nonfiction books that are must-reads. And
If you're going undercover, kind of like to take care of, to not be out with people, is that what you mean? It's a good read if you're stuck alone at home.
Or even if it's raining right now.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to get out quite safely and go hiking.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we did a lot of that last year, so.
Yeah.
we're,
And
trying to stay away from people.
you know, as long as you, if you stay away from the areas where other people are going to really want to go to,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Yeah, we tried to do that. We tried to stay
Yeah.
away from the places here where
We managed to safely hike
cyclists.
in the.
we're moving by.
Yeah, we managed to safely hike in the national park. We went to a local national park, Waterton, in the fall. So we even managed to get out to a national park, but we didn't even try for the summer because we knew it would be
Yeah,
too
we
busy.
did. We went on
We
at
talked
least
to
2 walks, right? There was at least one.
two.
2, yeah,
And,
there we go. And we hardly saw anyone.
No,
And
But-
the people that we
so that
saw
was safe.
generally had masks on and stuff like that.
well they minded their distance. And,
Yeah, exactly right.
Very
Yeah.
responsible.
Yeah, unlike
And-
the cyclists that we saw here in town.
But anyway, so you might be able to get, but there's always going to be some rain days. And why not pick out some good books to read or whatever? I mean, it's pretty hard to stay safe in a place like Canada where we're not getting, where the authorities are actually out to contaminate us with the plague. I mean, honestly, there's the best you can hope from the health authorities is they'll have signs, or they'll have sometimes they'll have people at the door who will ask you in person. So it's not just on a sign. They'll say, "Do you have any of these symptoms?" or whatever. And it's like, okay, but right away, before they started taking this seriously in Canada at all, like not even really very seriously, but
They're not taking it all that seriously, really.
Not even now. But when it was, it looked like it was just going to hit the elderly people for the most part and knock them out.
Yeah. They're saying, hey, that's euthanasia,
yeah, like,
and we're not
we
responsible.
don't really have a problem with that. So anyway, when that looked to be the case, then, I mean, anybody who had any sense and looked into what happened initially in Italy was like, oh my gosh, take this seriously, right? But no, not the Canadian authorities.
They took it semi-seriously, but Trudeau let his family go wandering off to England while this was happening, and it was just after that his family got caught, and they were having trouble in Italy with their hospital, and they're going, okay, like if it really gets out of control, we might be held accountable.
Anyway, so in Italy, it didn't take them long. They had quite a lot of numbers to work with. It didn't take them long to figure out, oh, well, a lot of people are just carriers. They're asymptomatic.
There was one person there, I only heard it reported once on the CBC. It should have been all over the place, every day, every hour. Look, their study indicated that 50% of the people who had it were asymptomatic. 50%. So testing people ain't going to do it. I mean, or screening them for symptoms.
Screening for
Isn't
symptoms.
going to do it. It isn't
Yeah.
going to do it. You have to test.
You have to actually test.
And you have to test right before. But the big trouble is it takes a while for the test to, hey, I got tested 3 days ago. I was hanging with people without masks. But I'm free and clear. Yeah, you're free and clear to spread it now, guy.
Yeah, and
gal.
so then later on, I mean, and I only heard this one report on the CBC once.
And we listen to it a lot.
Yeah.
Understand. I don't know why we put ourselves through it.
Why we do. But anyway, we're trying to get the
News on COVID.
news from, or
Because we
whatever.
haven't been on the internet.
This is the government publicly funded station. They should be the most reliable source. For
They
this,
should be.
right?
They should be serving
So-
the public.
Yeah.
And they're
So-
serving themselves. So they're to serve and protect. Serve themselves and
Then we
protect their own
heard that
interests.
a study from China said that 80% of people with COVID are asymptomatic.
Yeah.
80%.
Wow.
So what is
okay.
the point when you have signs on the door saying, "Oh, do you have these symptoms? Then stay out." And it's like, okay, and you're relying on the people to actually stay out when they have the symptoms anyway, which evidently they don't. So all the time, not everyone's responsible. Not everyone cares about stopping the spread. Anyway,
The majority of people don't care, so long as it hits elderly people or someone else or whatever. There's a lot of people who they care about masking. Did you hear about this one?
what?
Some poor person in Georgia, I believe it was in the United States, behind a counter in a store or something like that, said, "Hey, you're not wearing a mask or not wearing it properly, please." Boom! Got blown away. I think the person's dead. He got shot. Like, wow, you anti-maskers. You're so courageous. I've got to protect my right to breathe heavily.
I don't know.
I'm going to kill people if they take away
Anyway.
my right.
So, I've suggested a lot of reading, and really I was aiming for a lot of my shows that I posted on YouTube were dinner and a movie, so I'd show the dinners that we were eating, and we'd review movies, and then we'd talk about how this fits into the greater scheme of things, or whatever, right? Reality. A lot of the movies that we were doing both reviews on nonfiction and fiction, and kind of trying to put things together so that other people might want to connect some dots and whatever. Anyway, but I noticed that a lot of my posts have somehow vanished. I didn't delete them, or a lot of my videos, and
Suspicious.
I don't know why. I don't know what somebody out there in the censorship world found offensive about my thought processes or what. But anyway.
I'm afraid we're too true to be good.
Yeah. So
Not
anyway.
too good to be true.
I mean, people don't watch my stuff anyway. Why bother deleting it? People don't watch it. They don't care. I think in my blog that I write, I think I have 15 people who read it. 15 in the whole world. Like, why are you bothering with censoring somebody who's going to have a viewership? I mean, a couple of my videos got a lot of viewers. But, anyway. So, anyway. I guess people want to watch dogs farting and getting scared videos. Whatever.
Oh, that's good.
That's fine. If you want to watch a bit of that, that's that's up to you what you watch. And anyway, so I picked out some nonfiction pandemic sort of plague topic reading to go through, and then I've tried to say, well, you might want to space that out with some fiction just so that you don't go batty or whatever. Don't get so stressed out. And maybe take some Epsom salt baths in between, just relax a bit and go, okay. Because there are a lot, you can protect yourself, you can't protect a whole bunch of people. Anyway, do what you can. Try to stay sane. And this is the best book to space out between some nonfiction reading on pandemic or plague sort of stuff. So great. This is, gosh, it might be the best young adult fiction book I've ever read. So amazing. I'll give you a little bit of, I've marked some pages here. Basically, I was hooked on the first page. So this is the first page of the book. In the black mirror of the coffee's surface, the gray sky trembled with the beating of my heart. And I was like, yeah, artistic. That's great, right? So just that hooked me. And then chapter 2 is about trematodes. And I didn't know about them, but you know, if I look this up, I have a feeling that these things actually exist, and I will look it up though. Anyway, they are tiny fish that live in the stomach of a bird, and I don't know if they're really tiny fish, we'll see. But they lay eggs in the bird's stomach, and then the bird craps them into a pond, and they swim around the pond, not the bird, the little things that the eggs, and then they hatch in the pond, and then they swim around. Anyway, and they look for a snail, and then these little things are small enough that they lay eggs in one of the snail's eyes, and it tends to be the left eye. Who knows why? Then the half-blind snail goes around, and he's really hungry. He's infested with these things, right? And he's eating and eating and eating. But and it's all that this snail thinks about is just eating. He can't do anything else, and it's just that he's feeding these trematodes. And then eventually the trematodes get bored of that, and they invade the snail's antennae, and so they make the snail's antennae twitch, and then they turn the snail's left eye bright colors. And so that's like a lure, like a fish lure kind of thing, but for the bird. And then the bird comes and eats the snail, and the cycle continues, right? He goes and craps the snail eggs out in another pond or whatever, right?
Can that get into humans, or no?
I don't think so. I think that was just, anyway.
Okay.
So then...
Anyway, I think it's better to call them organisms, the trematodes.
Yeah. But anyway, so that got me hooked, and so then he's pulling that into part of the story. So you're thinking, oh, well, this doesn't seem like a young adult story. It seems like too interesting, actually, not from my point of view. But anyway, so now I'm on page 38, and this is so funny. I've marked the page so I don't have to look up the name of the drink again. Bahama Llama Ding Dong. So anyway, he's at a bar, and he's talking to a woman at the bar, and I won't give away who this is or anything. And she says, kind of girly looking, don't you think, about his drink? And he did think, he says. The drink had been a vague sort of embarrassment to me since it had arrived, frozen banana bobbing to the music. But the other guys in the bar had seemed not to notice. And they were all pretty tough looking, what with their leather chaps and all. So, I mean, he's written in some comedy here. So you know that he's found his way into a gay bar, and he doesn't even realize it because he's from Texas, right? And he's in New York City, and there's this frozen banana bobbing in a drink, and that's their the bar's specialty is this. And so anyway, he pushed the banana down to drink, but it popped back up. And then later on he says, I don't know about girly. Looks like a boy to me.
Yeah.
Right? And so funny, right? So he's managed to find this woman in this gay bar who he's talking to, but he has no idea that he's in a gay bar, and he has no idea about Anyway, so there's a lot of humor along the way. Oh geesh. I just took my bookmark off before I realized where I was. Oh, Page 42. Men infected with toxoplasma don't shave every day, don't wear ties too much, and don't like following social rules. Women infected with toxoplasma like to spend money on clothes, and they tend to have lots of friends. The rest of us think they're more attractive than non-infected women. In general, the researchers found that infected people are more interested to be around. On the other hand, people without toxoplasma in their brains like following the rules. If you lend them money, they're more likely to pay you back. They show up for work on time, the men get into fewer fights, the women have fewer boyfriends. Could this be toxoplasma mind control? But that's just too weird, isn't it? And he says maybe some people always hated getting to work on time, and they liked having felines around because cats wouldn't go to work on time either if they had to work to go to. These people adopted cats and then got toxoplasma. Maybe the other half of humanity, the ones who enjoy following the rules, usually get dogs. Fetch, sit, stay, so their brains stay toxoplasma free. Maybe these are two kinds of people who were already different, or maybe not. That's the thing about parasites. It's hard to tell if they're the chicken or the egg. I mean, he's got me hooked the whole way along. By the time I get to chapter 5, where the story really starts beginning, right? That I'm hooked. Like, the parasite is in my brain, right? For this book is so awesome. There's I mean, he has an artistic way of writing. He's a really great writer, and he's woven in reality into the story in such a pleasing way that this is actually, it's fiction that's worth taking note of, which, wow, that doesn't happen very often. Like, we were listening to a lot of audiobooks this winter because I thought, you know, I've been saving these audiobooks for when we're going on road trips, and when are we going to be able to travel? Maybe never again. And I may as well just listen to these things. So I listened to a lot of the audiobooks that we had around that I'd saved from library book sales and whatever. And a lot of at the end of a lot of the library books, or the audiobooks, it'd say, the reader would say, thank you for being an recorded books reader. And I'd think, wow, they're managing to convince usually young people, right, but everybody, that they're actually reading if they're listening to audiobooks, which is ridiculous. And with a lot of fiction books, I found that you may as well just listen to it because it's not worth really putting, when you're reading a book, I mean, you're fully there, right? You're not doing anything else. Your hands are occupied too, so you can't even be like solving Sudoku puzzles or something like that. You're right there. And with fiction, a lot of the time you may as well just be listening to it. But really, it's just something to space between reality, right? And here, this book, he manages to space reality within the fiction books itself, which is, wow, what a great writer. This is, I don't know what else I had a couple things that I was thinking, oh, I'll remember that, so I won't bookmark it. And now I don't remember what I was going to talk about. But I mean, there was some funny stuff, like he was talking about how, well, I guess I'll tell you, it's a kind of vampire story, but it's a very different vampire story. And so there was, he's talking about when he became infected. And he says, you know, I did find it kind of odd that the Atkins diet was giving me better night vision and stuff like that. Like, it was so funny. It was great. So he was talking about all these things and how, and he thought it was kind of odd that it was around New Year's Eve, and every girl that he was with or kissed or anything around New Year's Eve, they were going crazy. And he thought that was kind of odd, but then he thought, oh, well, maybe it's a New Year's thing. It's like, anyway, great book, so good. It's a must read for everyone. Everyone right now should read this book. This one here, I think I wrote down something in it like, if you get past the first little while, it's awesome. Like, there's a lot of, I don't know, talk about her bike and stuff like that. I don't know how many people. It's a young adult thing, and I don't know how many young adults are honestly into bike riding. But I mean, isn't that about when you're 10 years old? You're really into your bicycle. And so this is supposed to be set for young adult people, and it feels more like a juvenile kind of book for me. I realize there's some kind of scary stuff in there that might be too much for, I mean, it wouldn't have been, I was reading much scarier stuff when I was 10. But I would say, anyway, this book was great. It's the first little while, I don't know if the author could really hook a young reader. Whereas this one, you're hooked right away. Right away. And he keeps pulling you in. So there's everyone would like this book. This one I would recommend reading anyway. This one is just god-awful. So what did I write? For The Mislaid Magician. I don't know how this person was a successful writer. Dreadful. I, as a general rule, avoid stories set in the 19th century. The only time I ever enjoyed letters in the text of a book was in the Griffin and Sabine stuff. This is unreadable. That's what I wrote for it's just awful. Anyway. That's all I really had to say. Did you want to talk about anything?
Yeah, let's talk about Naheed Nenshi. Is that okay with you?
You go ahead. Talk.
Mayor of Calgary. First Muslim mayor of any city in Canada, apparently. He's got it right.
That's quite an achievement.
It's an achievement for him, and it's an achievement for Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I compare Calgary with what Calgary was when I lived there with my parents when I was a kid from 1964 to 67. It was a bastion of on-enlightenment. I said on-enlightenment. The Soviet government was still in power in Alberta, and I think they still had until 1971 when they were turfed, they still had a eugenics law in the books. I don't think it was enforced, but there were lots of people who were, according to some, who were, I gather, who were sterilized according to that law. But even just having the law in the book. See? So, Naheed Nenshi was beacon up for years ago about the burning of a mosque in Quebec, and saying he was ashamed of Canada or ashamed to be a Canadian. Wow, okay. You know, like there are lots of places where they burn mosques and they try to make sure people are inside. Well, there are lots of places where they burn churches and they make sure there are lots of people inside. So now, in the wake of what happened in London, Ontario, he's beacon off again about how something
a
like...
family was mowed down.
Yeah. By some guy who's being labeled a terrorist. And perhaps he should be labeled a terrorist. Though it looks as though he was a lone wolf. Because nowadays, people who are of a terrorist persuasion tend to have a profile on the internet, and when you get a disaffected individual or someone who's having troubles, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. His mom was saying that he was behaving aggressively, presumably to a lot of different people, not just singling out people of a single faith. But when they've got a presence on the internet and they're getting foot soldiers to sign on without signing on, I think it should be labeled terrorist. But you know, that's across the board. So if you've got lone wolves whacking people in England or whatever. I want to see it labeled as terrorist. I don't care if they're what color they are and what religious persuasion they are. I want to see it labeled as terrorism. If they are doing the will of terrorists without actually signing on officially, and we know that it's not that way. There are many times when there is a lone wolf Muslim terrorist doing terrorism, and they say, these are the authorities. Do we call it terrorism? No, it's lone wolf stuff. But because this is a white person doing stuff against Muslims, then it's terrorism pretty well automatic. It's the way it's being presented by the police. So I want consistency, and I want what I've wanted all along, which is anyone who does the will of terror, sign on. Without signing on, the person should be prosecuted as a terrorist, right across the board. I want consistency. I'm not contesting the police charging this idiot with terrorism. I want it applied across the board, equality of treatment. Certain groups should not get special treatment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's what's happening in this case. As far as Ned Nenshi being embarrassed to be a Canadian, he might be a secular Muslim. I gather he's a Muslim, that's what they're saying. I want him.
No, I think he said that he was embarrassed of Canadians or something.
This time it was a little bit different. The first time he was...
And it's like, okay, so which Canadians? The Canadians that voted for you? Because this was one Canadian who did this, mowing down some people, and that's awful.
Yep.
But
apparently this is the... I don't know if there were other incidences where, there were destruction of property, serious destruction of property, like the burning or death. But I don't know how many deaths there have been, how many Muslims have been killed because they've been Muslims in Canada. But if there haven't been in intervening time, in the last 4 years and now, it's one per year. So here's a Muslim...
Well, it's really one incident, though.
Yeah, but you stretch it out over, do you see what I'm saying? Over 4 years.
Okay.
So there may have been others, and that's awful. But here's a Muslim who teaches Islam. And this is maybe a couple of years back. He was saying, I don't know what all the fuss about terrorism is about. Your chances of getting killed by terrorists in Canada are about the same as getting hit by lightning. Okay.
If you're Salman Rushdie, though, it's a little higher.
Well, it's different there. And, like the whole thing is, if you beak off about Islam, or if you quite like Salman Rushdie, he had 2 strikes against him, then your life is forfeit. They will get you. So, that's the deal. Here's my challenge to that little Muslim guy. Hey, I beak off about any sort of religion. The one I was raised in. The one he was raised in. You beak off, and we'll see if who's worried about terrorism. I quit my religion. I was raised fundamentalist Christian. I